villagers. This is very different than most of the videos that are in the lounge because you are getting like some raw emotions. So I haven't set up. This isn't like a pre-recorded thing. This is just me right now. I went live on Instagram and I thought, wow, this is something that our lounge members actually deserve to have in concrete form rather than just something that is going to be there for 24 hours and then go away. So welcome to Coffee with HeHe. I normally record in the afternoons or the evening times for the lounge, and so this is me in all my glory in the morning. I'm talking about setting boundaries when you enter into conversations, and this can be really hard. So a lot of times in pregnancy, people just put their opinions on you, right? And a lot of times in pregnancy, you find yourself talking about something and then someone just blurts out an opinion, or you should do this or you shouldn't do that, and you're like, whoa, I didn't ask you for that. I was simply just sharing something with you. No opinions welcome, please. That is hard. You would never actually say that in public, right? You would never come back and be like, whoa, no opinions, please. You probably would be very shocked, and then you would some people would be able to set a boundary, but most people would not know how to set that boundary. And it would make you feel uncomfortable. And it might make you feel angry, and it might make you feel anxious, and it might make you feel like you're second guessing yourself, and it might make you feel all sorts of emotions that you weren't prepared for. And, in this village, that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So today, I'm going to try and prepare you for the conversations that catch you off guard and or always kind of rile you up. And these can be things, they're what I call hot topic conversations. So if they're polarizing topics and you know that people have very strong opinions about things on either side, then that is a hot topic. It might be about a birth plan or a desire or a goal that you have during your birth that people are uncomfortable with. That is another thing. It might be a mothering choice. It might be something that you're doing during motherhood or you plan to do once your baby gets here and people have strong opinions about it. All of these things, the sharing versus seeking exercise is going to be very helpful, on point with it, okay? Okay. It is all about 3 boundaries. That's it. Boundaries are hard. They're not fun. But once you learn to set them, they become easy. So I've broken it down to 3. And if you can learn to set these 3 boundaries, and 2 of them are really easy. It's true. 2 of them are very, very easy. One of them is the hard one. And it's just because you're verbalizing it. But anyway, we'll get there. 3 boundaries. If you can master these, then you can navigate any conversation that comes your way that's really hard. Okay? You ready for these? These are fun. I love setting boundaries. I don't love setting boundaries in person. It's so hard for me. I love talking about setting boundaries because for me, that's how I get the courage to set actual boundaries. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so 3 simple boundaries. The first thing you have to do is you have to understand where you stand yourself on this topic or this conversation or this situation or this goal or this desire, whatever you are discussing, you need to know. Now, there's 2 ways this road could go. It could be a pre-thought out thing. I'm having a home birth. That is pre-thought out. That is a controversial topic. You know that, I might say 90% of the time, but we'll break it back down to 50% of the time. 1 out of every 2 people are going to say something not helpful and not supportive and probably not understanding completely home birth. They're going to say something not helpful, right? The other road that this could go down is I am in a conversation that I did not think I would be in. I'm in a conversation I didn't get to prepare for, and now there's a topic being presented that I don't know I don't know where I stand on it. So that road can go 2 different ways. In that moment, you can either think really quickly, where do I stand on this conversation right now in this moment? Because guess what? You're allowed to change your mind. You can. And you can change your mind in this conversation. So if you go down that road and you're like, oh shit, I don't know where we are in this conversation. I haven't thought about this. I'm not prepared to defend myself. Take a moment and say, well, what do I feel right now? Okay, and then say, well, I feel blah, 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 blah. And they might come back with something that changes your mind, and you can say, wow, I've never thought about that. That definitely changes my perspective a little bit. I certainly have things to think about. And then you've ended the conversation, and it was kind and it was polite. Or you can take a moment and realize, I don't know where I sit on this conversation enough to have this conversation, so I'm going to say that. And you just be honest, and you can just say, this is actually something I don't know that much about, and I don't feel comfortable talking about it. I mean, one of two things. People are going to be like, okay, and the conversation's going to end, or they're going to be like, I'm going to make you have this conversation, and then you should walk away because you're not safe in that conversation, right? Like, that's a great way to end the conversation. So know where you stand on these topics before you go in, which is part of the reason that the lounge is so good. We step you through knowing all of these things. We step you through all the conversations you might have to have so that you're not caught off guard. You just have to do the work and, think about where you stand on these things. So you're prepared because you know where you stand. Now you need to know what your conversation of that goal, the goal of that conversation is. Excuse me, let me take something to drink. Okay, so you need to know what your goal of the conversation is. Are you going into this conversation seeking information, seeking support, seeking camaraderie, seeking sympathy, seeking advice, seeking information, education, whatever it might be? Or are you going into this conversation simply sharing, and you don't need the other person to fix it, to give you advice, to do anything really? You just want someone to listen. That boundary is on you. So that's step one. Set these boundaries with yourself. Know where you stand and what is your goal of the conversation. Then it is your responsibility to share that with this person and set that boundary. So you can easily do this in the conversation. You can actually open the conversation up with this. Hey, I really love to hear your advice on, or I've had a very hard day and I'm not looking for advice, but I just want to tell someone about it. You around? Sets a clear boundary. Clear boundary. If you don't open up that way, you can end the conversation with that. Thanks for letting me vent. I'm not looking for you to fix it. I just needed to tell somebody. Love you. Right? Or you could end it with, and I don't know necessarily where to go, so I'd love to hear your advice. I know you've had 3 children and you shared a bit about those, hoping you can spread some light on that. Right? There's ways that you can sprinkle it into the conversation. It's your responsibility to set this boundary with them, so you do have to communicate this. When you go to people and you're sharing about something, it is the human instinct, whether it is actually a natural instinct or it's the way we've been socialized. I don't know that answer, but either way, it is the first response for when people go to other humans. The receiving human is going to try and fix it. They're going to give advice. They're going to try and make you feel better. It's just what we do. And so in order to break this cycle, you have to set those boundaries and communicate that, okay? Now that's 1 and 2. Set it with yourself, set it with them. Here comes the hard part. If they don't respect that, you have to hold that boundary. Now, a really good person, like not like a good versus bad person, but like if you have chosen the right person for this in your life, like you have different people in your circle and they all play a different role. If you've chosen the right person for this role, you won't ever get to this third step because it also includes that you have to set the boundary going into it. So if you set the boundary for them and you've clearly communicated that and you've picked the right person for the role and you've done the inner work to know where you stand. Okay, so there's a lot of steps, but if you check off the boxes before that, you'll never get to this step because they're going to respect that boundary. They won't ever try and fix it or give you advice or any of that. But if they do cross that boundary, gently remind them. I call this holding the boundary. You have to hold that boundary. It does not take many times, right? So you might just have to remind them just once that you don't want them to fix it or give advice. That's all you'll have to do. It's not this painful, long process. And if it is, you should reevaluate if you have the right person in your circle in this role. Got to be a better person if it's this painstakingly long drawn out thing. You're seeking support. You should not go to seek support and then it also drain you further. You're seeking support and or just sharing so that you can lessen your load and fill up your cup again. So if this person is putting more weight on you and draining your cup, wrong person for the role. You should relook at that. Definitely. Definitely. I think that's it. I hit everything. It's really that simple. Boundaries are never simple, but if you think about holding boundaries in a conversation, know where you stand and know what you're doing in that conversation. Are you sharing just for the sake of sharing because you need to get it off your chest, or are you seeking something? Advice, support, education, information, a hug. Set that boundary with the person that is receiving your information. Clearly set that boundary. Clearly communicate that. And then 3, hold that boundary, right? It's so hard to hold that boundary. That is the hardest part, but it is the most important. It's short-lived. It's short-lived, and it can be painless if you have the right person in that role. All right, guys, so when you enter a conversation, ask yourself, am I seeking or am I sharing? And then share that with the people. I didn't talk about the old lady that stops you in the grocery store because I feel like this happens to every single pregnant person. Set a boundary with that old lady too, right? She's so nice. She's so kind. She's doing it out of the goodness of her heart. Everything she says is because she truly loves babies. Old people love babies. They don't always know how to communicate that. It's 2019. It's hard for old people to keep up with our times today. Set that boundary. Be gentle and say, thank you so much for those sweet words. Even if they weren't sweet, they probably meant them in a sweet way. Thank you so much for your sweet words. And walk away. You don't have to engage that person in a conversation. And for goodness sakes, do not let their words reverberate in your head. The birth world has changed so much since the old ladies that hang out at the grocery store have had babies or were nurses or were a nanny. They don't really know what the birth world is like anymore. God bless them. They are really trying to be nice, and they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They really are. They really, really are. I think every old person in the grocery store comes to a pregnant person because they want you to feel good. Your baby probably gives their heart this jitter and this jump that they haven't felt in a very long time, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and it reminds them of days when they were young. It is an overall happy interaction. Don't let their words get to you if they rubbed you the wrong way. Please remember the age difference, the time difference, all of that jazz, okay? Set boundaries. Am I seeking? Am I sharing? What do I want to get out of this conversation? Protect those relationships. I didn't talk about this either, but you are protecting the relationship between you and that person, whether it is a stranger or it's someone close to you. If you're setting clear boundaries and you're helping them, you're supporting them and reminding them what your boundaries are, then you are preventing them from crossing any of your boundaries in a way that makes you angry, right? You can protect that relationship and say, well, I'm going to support this person in respecting my boundaries, and therefore it's not them crossing your boundaries, you stay in silent, and then crossing your boundaries, you stay in silent, you're crossing your boundaries, you stay in silent, and then you have all this anger and resentment built up towards them, right? It's a nasty cycle. So set the boundaries. You first have to do the inner work and know where you stand on those things, and you have to have goals of whether you're seeking or you're sharing. Communicate your boundaries and then hold that boundary. Support the people in your life to support you. They love you. The people in your life love you so, so much. They want to help you. When people offer, it's not because of anything except that they love you. Like, people in your life really do care to support you. Allow them to do that, but don't have this expectation that they're going to know exactly what you need right out of the gate. That's a little silly, and it's a very high expectation. It's just a high expectation of humans in general. People have learning curves. You have to afford people learning curves when you start to work with one another, right? And especially in a capacity that you've never worked before. So if this is your first child, even if this is your second or third child, you've never had a second or third child enter your family before. So no matter what, this is a new situation. You have to communicate your expectations and your goals and what you need and what you feel you don't need and what hurts your feelings and what triggers you, so the people in your life can support you. But please, goodness sakes, accept the help, you guys, because the people in your life do love